Hello and welcome to the Wealthy Wellbeing Podcast, where we talk about all things health, fitness, real estate, and entrepreneurship. My name is Zach Bush. I am your host. Today, my guest is Taylor Williams. He is a weightlifting coach, CrossFit coach. He's host of the Hungry Dog Barbell podcast and owner of Hungry Dog Athletics. Taylor, thanks for coming on the show today.
Hell yeah, bro. I'm excited to be on, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I've been listening to your podcast for a while now. My wife actually did your Super Total competition this past April, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But why don't you give everybody a little bit background on who you are and what got you to where you are today?
Oh, background on who I am. So I'll save a little bit of the background for when we get into the conversation, Zach, so that we can really flow through that. But man, right now I think you put it perfectly there. I'm a weightlifting coach by trade, full-time CrossFit coach there, soon to be probably around the time this episode comes out, CrossFit affiliate owner of CrossFit Hungry Dog Athletics. I was just looking at my Facebook memories because it's the holiday time. I've done now 9 years of 12 days of Christmas workouts.
Wow.
This year I'll be doing it solo at my own space tomorrow, actually on Christmas. But so that means I've been around the CrossFit space for like 10 years now, man. Podcast host, that's been going on since the pandemic. And, just a lover of tacos, and I think an all around good guy.
So you mentioned the 9 days of Christmas workout. I actually just did that workout this morning, or the 12 days of Christmas. I did that this morning. You've done it for, you said 9 years. Have you kept it the same one every single year? Have you intermixed some movements and kind of reordered it around?
No. Funny that you bring that up. I remember before, I'm sure so many people have the same story. Like before I was officially at a CrossFit box or a CrossFit affiliate, right? Like I called myself getting in shape for CrossFit before I went to go start it. So I was doing like WODs or Metcons in like a Globo gym, not too far from like a quarter mile from where my mom lived at the time, right? And I did it first there, and I did it wrong. Like I didn't know that you were really supposed to repeat all the movements that you go through. So I just did all the stuff one time, right? Like in this Globo gym with people walking around, like just having their workout before they have their holiday the next day, and like on a bar that doesn't spin, the Globo gym plates and stuff. So I did it that kind of way, whatever was on CrossFit.com. And over the 9 years, I've probably been a part of like really a member at like 3 CrossFit gyms. And so they all had their own different thing. First I was at CrossFit Apex, and they had theirs. They had, because they're a 15-year affiliate like Generation. Amy Lyons, same thing at CrossFit KOP. And then I was also at CrossFit Brandywine. And they would do, I believe we followed Ben Bergeron's comp train program at the time. And so we would offer both like that version and like whatever CrossFit.com had, like scaled and all super RX kind of versions,
Yeah, I mean, I love it. And for anybody who doesn't know what the 12 days is, it follows the song, and there's 12 different movements. So it goes, day 1 is whatever your movement is. You do that, and then you go 2, and then 2, 1, and then 3, 2, 1, and so on, all the way up to 12, and then back down. So It's one of those things. I was just saying to somebody this year that every year, and you do it as a partner, so you alternate movements. And I remember like when I'm in the 5s or the 6, you're like 4 minutes into the workout, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be done this in no time. And every year I do it. And then like the 10, 11, 12 takes like 20 minutes by itself because you have to go through the entire set of movements.
Right. It's a trap. It's one of those trap workouts. That's probably the first time I heard and learned that phrase when it comes to CrossFit workouts.
Yeah. I mean, when I started, so when did you start into CrossFit? You mentioned the Globo Gym stuff and CrossFit.com, which is where I think a lot of people, when they first heard about CrossFit, they started just doing the workouts that CrossFit posted on the website. How long ago did you start doing CrossFit?
So how I will give you 2 answers for that. The way that I first heard about CrossFit, right, was Barry Winder, the owner of CrossFit Generation, like who we both know. I went to Hatboro Horsham High School. I graduated in 2010. He showed up there to be our strength and conditioning coach for the football team back in 2007. Just to us, he showed up off the streets, right? Like he had a job and did that stuff. Showed up off the streets. That was the first time I ever heard about it. The first time that it was around 2014 that I was like trying to turn my life around and get into working out. And at the time I was living in Harleysville, and CrossFit Apex is about 10 minutes from there. So I did about a year and a half of working out on my own to like get in shape for CrossFit, that old thing, before I walked into the Apex doors, and it changed my life,
Yeah. And that, it's funny, Barry introduced not actually me directly. So he worked at Johnson & Johnson, or
Yep.
the gym there. My mom worked there. So he kind of started doing boot camps at the
Wow.
campus, the corporate fitness. And that's why my
Yeah.
mom was like, I was a swimmer and soccer player in high school. I graduated in 2010 as well. And he like introduced it to my mom, and my mom introduced it to us. And we started doing like personal training sessions. And at our elementary school, we were using the monkey bars to do
Heck
like
yeah.
jumping pull-ups. We had a basketball full of sand for our wall balls, where you're
That's so
you're
cool.
throwing the ball up and the sand's raining in your eyes as you're trying to catch it. So like, yeah, that 2007 was when like, I kind of same thing. It was just a supplement to sport, like
Yeah.
my other sports. And then when I finally finished those in 2014, 2015, I was like, I need something to do. So I just rolled
Yeah.
into the, competition that CrossFit provides.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. You were one of the early adapters to what Barry's going to introduce to people's lives,
Yeah.
That's
So
funny.
you played football, and that's how you got introduced in the CrossFit. How was that? You said you had to get into shape to go start doing CrossFit, I think, and you laugh at that because I hear the same thing where people think they see CrossFit and they go, oh man, I need to like work out before I even do that,
I
which
got to
is
get ready for that.
exactly. So what do you say to people who are like, maybe they're coming into your gym as a coach for the first time and they're like, oh, I can't do this, I need to get ready. Like, how do you like ease them into like having the confidence of, no, like you can do this, right?
Well, I mean, I've done so many on ramps and foundations or whatever you call it over the years. And I think one of my biggest skills, Zach, is like relating to people and meeting them where they're at. So, man, I just explained to them like it's you can see all this cool stuff online, on TV, and like you can earn the right to do all that, right? Like we're trying to build you to this level, but CrossFit is really an exercise program, and it's meant for everyone. And like I think sometimes we can fall short of explaining what that means, but it just literally means like we are trying to prepare you for your life, prepare and enhance it. Like you walk into your average affiliate and you're not going to see everyone snatching 300 pounds, let alone even 200 pounds. Right. So I think if someone walks into the gym, right, and they're like, hey, I want to try this, I'll tell them a little bit about my story and talk to them about some of the members there that come there like for long term. And then when I set up their on ramp, I try to do it at either the beginning of a class or at end of a class so they can see the people that are actually there, right? That I feel like that helps them a lot. And because I mean, you may have your shirtless bros that are like super jacked, maybe right out of college, but for the most part, every CrossFit class is gonna be like just your regular person, and it could be really, really fit people, but they're just your regular person. You know, I love sport. I like that's how I got introduced to it. I love the sport of CrossFit, but I want it to be like for everyone, and I try to convey that to people. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what point did you start, you were an athlete and then you started CrossFit. At what point did you go, all right, I want to like coach this. I want to be more responsible for helping people and guiding people through this.
Man, I was really lucky. So, I got introduced to Barry, in when I was in high school, and then kept going with it. Went to CrossFit Apex, and those owners are amazing as well. And they had really good coaches. They're not even just the owners that made me fall in love with it and made me passionate about it. And to be honest, man, it felt like the first time in my life that I was passionate about something. So right around the time, the 2014, 15, as soon as I got into it, the wheel started to turn. And it just happened that I was at a point in my life too, like what the work that I was doing, I didn't care about it. I was doing it for a job. So right in the beginning, the itch started to hit me. And then about 3 years in, one of my favorite coaches, his name is Lou, and he goes to CrossFit Apex, or used to go to CrossFit Apex. He just dropped it to me one day, like, "Hey man, like, you ever think about coaching?" And I was like, you know what? I've been sitting on that as long as you were the first person to say it out loud. I'm like, I'm going to dive into that. So, I think the next year, 2018, I got my level 1, and then started from there. You know.
Awesome. No, I love that. And that's kind of my path was kind of similar. I mean, I was at the gym a bunch and I was doing it. I was helping people anyway as part of the class, which I'm sure you were doing. Like, even though I was part of it, like you're lifting with somebody and you're alternating and you're kind of helping each other out. And
Right.
so I was there a bunch and doing it anyway. And I was like, I might as well just see A, if they need coaches, and B, if they do, like, can't hurt to get certified. And it just happened that like the timing was right where they needed another person for a class or two. And I was like, cool, yeah, let me jump in and do it, because I love doing it and I want as many people as possible to do it.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? In the beginning too, I was like, I'm gonna go get my level one, and then the initial plan was I'm just gonna do it for my membership, right? Like I didn't still have the plan to do it full time because I was watching Barbell Shrugged and consuming all the content that like all the CrossFitters were at the time, and it was like becoming a full time coach was like an unheard of thing, right? There's so few people doing it at the space of the time that I still didn't really think about that. So in the beginning, even after I got my level one, my plan was to do a little bit of CrossFit on the side, but really work in the more corporate and like Globo
Mm.
gym training space. And I worked at Lifetime for a little bit. And I worked outside the training department and like use them paid for my certifications. The plan was to go that route and then just do CrossFit. Like, hey, usually literally just coach a few hours at a CrossFit gym just for a membership there so I can still keep doing it.
Yeah.
Um, but I got into that side of fitness and I was like, wow, I don't love this. This does not give me that same passion and fire and drive that being in the CrossFit gym did. So I went right from like the person that was just going to do it for the membership to like, okay, I actually want to do this full time because I see the impact that we can have on lives if we fully invest in them, and that's kind of what it seemed like wasn't happening in a Lifetime. Like the
Mm.
trainers would be working with people. There were some really good eggs, but for the most part, the trainers would just be like working with people and worry more about like their turnover, right? Like getting
Mm.
them in, getting them out, getting to the next person. And I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah, I've heard that, even it kind of the way you say that too, it kind of reminds me of like physical therapy. I have a good buddy of mine who opened up his own CrossFit gym and his own PT practice. And then
Right.
you probably know Dr. Ryan, who is at Apex now, but
For sure. Yeah.
he's a PT guy. He said the same thing. He was in corporate, physical therapy, and it's like they're all about like insurance and like just churning as many people through there. And he's like, I wanted to make a bigger impact. There's a bigger thing here,
Yeah.
and I wanted to do something more, to be independent myself, but also to help people individually and not just make it this machine where I could just to churn through as many people as I want. And I think that's a huge thing for you to realize. And I love that you're like, listen, I enjoy helping people and that's what I want to focus on. I don't care. Like I can help a lot of people there potentially, but I'm going to make more of a long-term impact the way that I want to do this for CrossFit.
For sure. I mean, like that's an old school health practitioner way of going about things, right? Where you're on the back of the house and you're really focused on just like keeping people coming back. Like I want you to be a gym member, yeah, but I want it to be because it enriches your life all the time and
Mm.
not just because this is the only way you feel good if you come here, you know?
Yeah. And I think, CrossFit really changed a lot of the way that the industry, it was like it definitely shook things up and made a big difference. And what about CrossFit really drew you in, and what made you love that so much more? Like what makes CrossFit different, right? I think now you see a lot of F45s and Orange Theory, which I think take a lot of the similar ideas from CrossFit. But like, what for you was like CrossFit's the way? CrossFit's what stands out. This is why I love it.
Oh man, why I love it. So like all the people that I worked with in the beginning, they weren't just like super fit and healthy people. They were also like technicians and like made it a point to coach, right? Like that's my favorite part of it, right? And over the past few years, I've had to dial into the more just like consumer facing part, but what sets CrossFit apart from, and I say this all the time. So if anyone out there knows me and hears this, they're going to be so sick of hearing this. A CrossFit class is like Zumba. It's like F45. It's supposed to be like all those things because those things are all accessible. The difference is that we will put a higher skill movement in there. And I mean, I know that it's like doing the utmost selling when you say you have the world class coaches that are supposed to be teaching it, right? Like, because no, not everyone's going to be world class. Some of them are going to stay tailored with their level one that's just doing it for the gym membership. But there are a lot of people that CrossFit brings in the people that will go above and beyond and try to break it down, right? Like, you walk in those classes, this is no shade to F45 or any of those things because I love anyone working out, but like they're not teaching a squat snatch because that's not what they're about, right? Like,
Mhm.
so I want to challenge your body and also the neurological systems. Like, I want you to be bought in through these more difficult things, and it's hard for a lot of people. I understand that. Like, that's not going to be the thing for everyone. I worked with one girl in particular. She wants to come in there. She wants to work hard, but I don't think she's ever going to master a squat snatch. And I don't
Mhm.
really care about that.
Mhm.
But if she can power and then overhead squat, like catch a power snatch a little bit lower than she usually does, and then do an overhead squat cleanly, she's excited after that. She has goal accomplishment. She got better than yesterday. So we gave her a metric. And that's the true difference between CrossFit and everything else. We assign metrics to things so that you can test them. You know, Dave Castro just talked about it recently that we should be testing things even like closer together. You know, like most people are retesting things like yearly through the open, or maybe like biannually, right? Like twice a year, but like do 75 push-ups for time today, right? And then next week try to do it again and beat your time, but you've learned something about yourself, right? And that's now assigned a metric to your fitness. Maybe not the physiological side, but to the neurological side, you know? So those are the biggest differences. I mean, you go into when I was bodybuilding, right? I might do 5 by 10 one day and then do 5 by 12 the next day, but there's not much actual testing in my fitness. I don't know if I actually got any fitter or any stronger or any healthier. But I mean, if I do CrossFit year one and I do the open and it has a thruster workout in it and it's 95 pounds and I can't do it, or I can only do 12 reps before I get time cap. And then year two comes around and there's another 95-pound thruster like there is every year. And now this workout, I don't get time capped. I can blitz through the thruster. You know, I'm not even worried about it. Like it's something else that holds me back. I can prove to myself that I got fitter because I have a metric, you know? And if you don't have things that elicit qualifiers, then you won't assign metrics to them, you know? So those are the biggest differences. And that's what brought me in, right? That coaching, and then the fact that there was something to test and measure, you know?
Yeah, agreed. And that's what, for me, it filled the void of, when you're talking testing and measuring, it filled the void of competition that I was missing when I graduated college. I wasn't playing soccer competitively and I wasn't swimming competitively anymore. I needed something where, hey, how can I compete? And even if that's not competing with against anybody else, but against myself, like I want to push myself to learn my limits as much as I can and see if I can push past that. And it definitely helped fill that void. And, now that I'm 33, having significant improvements in weights and stuff isn't the priority.
Yeah.
But if I repeat a workout that I did 4 years ago, and I got the same time, even if I didn't beat it, but I got the same time and I haven't done it in 4 years, then at least I can say, hey, I'm just as fit as I was when I was 29. And that feels pretty good. I haven't done anything crazy. And that's what's nice is you can see, like you said, you can see the progress.
Yeah.
And that's important for anybody getting started, is to be able to see that progress. And obviously that progress, you mentioned, getting time capped in the open year one, and then, crushing it and finishing it year two. At the beginning, you'll see big leaps in progress, but that never really fully stops. If you're going consistently, it never stops. And constantly seeing progress only motivates you to continue to go more and more and more.
For sure. And I think just like what you said, big right there. And we may not appreciate it just yet, just at 33, but 10 years from now, like you will appreciate more and more like, hey, I can do the same things that I did 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, and getting older. Like that's big. Maintaining, because I mean, maybe not our grandparents, but our parents probably didn't get the same benefit just because of how life was, how culture was at the time, but if I can do everything that I can do right now, 30 years from now, that is a success, It's crazy.
Yeah, it's that different level of intensity, right? I mean, CrossFit's that infinitely scalable that, a 7-year-old and a 20-year-old can be doing, the same basic workout, but the intensity is different. The movements are slightly different, but, maybe it's not squatting with a barbell. It's just sitting to a box and standing up. It's just that functional movement that, hey, like you're just scaling it for that level of intensity wherever you're at in your life. Even if you're in your 30s and you're just trying to get in shape, right? We talked about getting in shape to be able to go to CrossFit. Like you can go to CrossFit out of shape, and we're going to be able to scale it to whatever you want to make sure that you get the stimulus that's desired from the workout that's programmed.
For sure. I mean, like, dude, if someone asked me before on a podcast, like if I had someone come to me that was completely sedentary, like how would they be able to do CrossFit? They were kind of trying to go to me to say that there was like nothing they could do. They were like, went through everything, like, oh, they can't squat, can't do this. I'm like, dude, well, I mean, I'm not above someone coming in, and maybe this isn't like a foundation thing. Maybe you don't charge them for this. Maybe you have them come in for a no sweat intro and you just go for a half-hour walk. Because if you're truly that sedentary, you probably haven't just been on your feet for 30 minutes, right? Like, oh, okay, let's go do for this. Let's go talk about CrossFit. I'll tell you about things that I've been through. Let's go walk for 30 minutes. And you're like, all right, well, come back for another one. Maybe this isn't going to be a no sweat intro because you actually sweated the first time. You're going to sweat again this time. Let's walk for 35 minutes, and like that's increased work capacity, and that's what fitness is supposed to elicit. So I think that people sometimes think that they are above small things like that. But if CrossFit's who we say it's for, then those are the things that we have to be willing to do, you know? Like, I know that when I'm in my gym, I'm willing to do that if someone walks in, like, let's go do this. And then maybe it might take 5 walks, but I bet that I'm a pretty good talker. After 5 walks, I can talk you into coming back and believing that I can get you to do something like what everyone else is doing in this workout. I mean, and that's CrossFit. If over those 5 weeks, she walked for 5 minutes longer every week, I improved her work capacity. And now the next thing that I need to do is change up the way that I improve her work capacity, and that varies it. And then it's literally CrossFit by definition of what it is. It doesn't have to be squat snatches. That's what I like to do. I like to do ring muscle ups. Those are cool. When I'm not as in shape, I can't do them, and my work capacity is depreciated. So I need to work on it to get fitter to be able to do them again. So
100%.
it's all the things, man. I think that it gets boxed into what happens in July or August out in, Aromas or Madison or wherever the games are, but it's really not. Like, what's happening in affiliates is life changing, So it's really cool to be a part of.
Yeah. And so somebody we've been talking about, somebody new, sedentary, who's coming in, and, you mentioned earlier that the nice thing about CrossFit is you have the coaches that typically good ones will take the step further and learn a little bit more. How can I coach better? How can I teach these complex movements a little bit more? How would somebody who is sedentary and thinking about doing CrossFit, what would you recommend they're looking for when they're talking to, different gyms? Nowadays, there's plenty of gyms, usually within a 15 or 20 minute drive of them. How do I differentiate one versus the other? How would I differentiate your gym versus somebody else? What should they look for and kind of key in on to be like, this is a gym that's going to have really good coaches that's going to help me progress like I need to progress?
In your first conversation with the coach or whoever it is, ask them like how long they've been around, and I'm not saying that gyms that have been around for a long time are always good, but that's just a key indicator. If it's a year, and I'm about to be under a year, so it's not the only factor, but it's something that's helpful.
But you've been around for a while, so that's the difference, right? Yeah. So like that's maybe not the gym itself, but the owner or the coach that you're talking to.
Yeah. Ask them. Look for them to say something about the class is instructor led. I say that at all my stuff because I want people to know I'm going to be coaching this entire hour. I want to prioritize you moving because I think that's a big part. Like, it's a fitness class, like we keep talking about. So you should be moving for most of the class. I want you to get fitness out of it like you would if you go into a Zumba or kickboxing class. I want it to be like that for you. Look for that. If you have time to stay around or show up for a briefing, look for like questions to be asked and answered at the whiteboard. Because the only places that don't ask questions, only CrossFit people that don't ask questions are ones that are used to their questions not being answered. So like, if you're able to watch, and that's not going to be like every time, like we said, like sometimes it's going to come in, it's going to be like, 5 400s, and they're going to know exactly what to do. But like, look for there to be questions asked and answered at the whiteboard. And then if you can watch them in the class, see if the coach is on his phone, and that'll tell you right there, or if they're generally just watching people, working with people. It's hard when you walk into a CrossFit gym because gyms could be there forever and they could just be people just like all the other people there, or you could get a coach's one off day. But generally the gyms that have been around for a while, they have a pretty good staff of people that are going to at least make sure that you're safe for that entire hour. So yeah, those would be the things I work for.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that. Our gym's been around for a while too, and the coaches have been around for a while, so the passion is there. It's nothing that faded. And I was actually having a conversation with somebody this morning, or yesterday morning, and she was like, yeah, I could like run a class, but I can't coach a class. And I think that's, like you said, that's the difference. Like, you can see how well the gym is run based on how interactive the coach is. I know like a lot of coaches at our gym, they want to, and I like to do it too, is I try to at least talk to every single person at least one time throughout the class. Like even if it's not necessarily a cue to improve or tweak this, right? But at least an engagement of, hey, how are things going? Like, nice job. Like, just say something. And most of the time it's a little conversation. And you can see that when somebody's actively moving around and coaching. So I love that point.
For sure. I mean, it's because what you're doing is not even just like coaching them, even if you just like talk to them, right? It's like it's impacting the people, it's building not just like the friendship, but like the trust in them, that like when you do come back and coach them, they're now going to be like, oh, okay, it's because he wants the best from me, not the best of me, but wants to make sure I'm doing this well, and safe and all that. So all those things are important.
100%. So we talked a lot about CrossFit. I know you're big into weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting. Did that come from CrossFit? Obviously, you got probably exposed to the Olympic weightlifting from CrossFit. Is that where it came from, and kind of what sparked that to be like, I want to focus on doing this as well?
Weightlifting. So yeah, dude. Weightlifting. Hold on, let me go grab my Mac charger real quick. Give me a second. I just got my energy saver on, so I can go into that. Up there. Let me do this before I give the answer. So I need that. Okay. So it doesn't die on me. So weightlifting, I was at CrossFit Apex, and you might know Keith Bussum there. Bus, he was big into weightlifting, and he would run barbell clubs there on the regular. So I had a passion for it, just the way that he would coach it, his passion for it, and the excitement from everyone, how they would do it when we were doing it. But then 2 years later, I'm coaching full time at Brandywine, and COVID hits, pandemic. So we all shut down. I'm getting into weightlifting more and more, and I started a virtual club at that time because everyone was home anyway, and I was writing like loose CrossFit programming for people. I was like, I like this better. And just dove into it more and more. And that's like where Hungry Dog was born from. And just kept riding with it. I wanted to like coach and teach, right? And there's a little bit more of that on weightlifting. I mean, there's like I love gymnastics, but gymnastics mirrors weightlifting to me. Like if I could have a gymnastics team, I would do that. But I'm more geared towards weightlifting, so that's kind of where I was. I like the nerdy stuff about it. I like to be able to learn, and like there's only so much you can learn about air squats and all that. So weightlifting stuck with me, and I grew into it more and more. I like coaching. Like I like coaching bar muscle ups, chest to bar, handstand push-ups more. Like I get fired up for that stuff in class, but it's a little bit different, right? Like you could get people to hold like a clean setup a little bit longer. You can get them to hold it upside down against the wall, or do any of those drills. But like those are the things that I love to coach, but they do mirror each other. But yeah, when COVID struck and it shut everyone down, I did my first weightlifting meet right before we got shut down. So I was like sparked to it. I launched the club through USAW with like the world shut down because they had like online competitions and stuff. And then I just kept it going. I started a brand and with the podcast like a couple months after the brand, and I was like, oh, this is like I'm going to try to keep building this, keep doing this. Like, so I have the club already. I'm going to try to keep building that as well, So yeah.
Nice. And so the super total, where did that come from? I don't remember exactly how long it's been around, but where did that come from? Where did that idea come from?
Similar thing. So like we're closed 2020 end of the year. We did a couple of virtual or like online stuff that USAW was hosted at the time. I'm pretty sure that I saw James Townsend post a video of him doing all the lifts, the snatch, the clean, the jerk. He did them separate, the back squat and the bench press and the deadlift. He just posted a video of him doing them in like 10 minutes, like walked from bar to bar. I was like, oh man, that's cool. And this time it's 2020. I'm 2 years into my coaching journey. I wanted to do all the things that I do now back then. Like I wanted to have a podcast. I wanted to be a full-time coach. I started doing that. I wanted to host events. So we get back into the gym in 2021, and no, actually 2020, right before we shut down. I did it as just a in-house one with like 17 of our members. We did 6 lifts instead of combining the clean and the jerk. Then the next year was the first year that I opened it up to outside people to have it loosely be an event. Like I did registration by like texting me and PayPaling. Like our score sheet was a Google Doc. Like there was no lanes, heats, any of that. I was just like, let me see if I can do this. Like that's kind of how I've always been with all the stuff that I'm doing. Like, let me see if I can do this. Let me go try it to prove it to myself. And then afterwards, I figured out how to make it like an actual like product, an actual event. But yeah, 2021 with the world only loosely open, I invited out people. I made a graphic on Canva. And like I said, I had them text and PayPal me, mostly just like friends that went to other places that were like into lifting and stuff. I had them come out. We had 2 weight classes, a light and a heavyweight. I think I did that. Or no, I think I actually just did a guy and a girl, and whoever was strongest like won. Yeah, I did that in 2021, and I mean, success. I mean, no one got hurt, and it was a fun day. Like it was cool. I strengthened a lot of relationships by the people that came there, so like that was awesome. But like I left that gym that year and started a KOP over that same summer, and in my interview with Amy, we talked about, like this is kind of a place that people are used to doing all the things that I want to do, right? Like be an event director, head coach, general manager. So like I took that job, like with us both talking about that in the first conversations, right? Like I'm looking for these people. So I come on there. I was coaching for like a month or so, and we did a mixed gender partner comp. But the day I was announcing it was the flood. And so the flood happened and all this stuff. So we still did it. It was terrible. But it went, yeah, it was bad. I mean, it was 2 months removed from the flood, but it was my actual first event, but it went well enough that like we started talking about another one. So like when we were talking about another one, I was like, hey, I do this thing called the Super Total. I've only kind of done it officially before, but I think this could be cool to do here. So we tried it in that March. It was 2 days in that first year at KOP, open division. So people under 40 on day 1, masters on day 2.
Okay.
And it was big. I mean, it was like 80 people across those 2 days. And it took all day because I had like 12 minutes with like super long transitions, had no idea how to really manage people and stuff like that. But everyone had a great time, and it was a lot of big lifts. Like we created moments for people that they went home with, and they still remember to this day. So to me, let alone whatever like money it made and all that stuff, that was a success right there. And that was the proof of concept to me. Like the 2 prior years were like, okay, I could get my friends to come out and do this, but like, can I actually run a successful event and have it be someone on time, have people mostly be safe, and have them have fun too? So yeah, that happened, and it was like, okay, that one taught me how to have a good idea and then refine it to make it into something. So now, I mean, when I host it this year, it's gonna be year 5, I think, in total of doing it. And this is like the 3rd iteration of what it's gone. It's gone from 6 lifts with the clean and jerk being separate. And then the first year at KOP, I had it be 5 lifts, and that was just it. Last year, I had that sandbag carry in there as a floater. The idea behind that was to add strongman into it so we can really highlight all the strength sports. And I want to bring something like that back this year. I don't fully have that idea formalized yet, but it'll be coming back for year 5, man, in 2025, finally in my own spot, So
yeah, and that's super exciting. And I definitely want to dive into that. I mean, it's a good transition into the new space now. So, you've taken these experiences from all these different gyms, different coaching at them, being an athlete at them. Now you're opening up your own spot. What made you go like, I want to open up my own place, right? Because some people are good with just coaching under somebody else, being a general manager, event coordinator, like you're doing a lot of things, which is awesome. Some people are good with that, right? But now it's like, no, I want to open my own space, and like now's the time to do it. What, because I think that could be a big thing that holds people back, is like, oh, what if it doesn't work? Like, what if I can't do it by myself? Like that, like that's my initial thought on something like that. But no,
Yeah.
you're like, now's the time to do it. Like, what was that process look like?
Oh man. So just kind of my experiences in life and the things that I've been through and done, they've just shaped me into a person that like can't be afraid of trying the new thing. So that's where I was. And I mean, for the past 18 months before this, so I left KOP in March of 2024. April, that's the month that comes after March. April. And for about 18 months prior to that, so going back to like late 2022, I think I had become stagnant and just kind of been in the place of doing the same thing. I
Mm,
wasn't scared of moving on to the next thing, but I was definitely stagnant. I was in a comfortable position. Um, and that, but I still have like the skill set that I still have, and I still have like the mindset that I have. So relationships start to deteriorate over there because we probably have two people that are made to do the same thing in the same space, and so
mm,
that doesn't go well. If anyone out there ever gets himself in that situation, it's you should stop it sooner than later because it's not going to end well if you just have people that have the same kind of skill set in the same area.
mm,
So yeah, my experiences they put me in positions to like I don't have a lot of time to worry or be scared of the next thing, but also like sharpen the sword so that I'm ready for it, right? Like you're talking about 2024, I'm at 8 or 9 years in. I've done a lot of things. I've been around some of the best in the business. I've learned from them, right? I had a head coaching job where I had to be the person driving the programming and also most of the teaching. That was
mm,
probably my first head coaching job. I've had the job where I was the person driving like the day to day, right? Like the general manager and the onboarding and the logistics for things. I've been in the role where I'm the event director and I know how to network with a lot of people through the events and through my podcast, right? So it's a culmination of those things,
mm,
right? Like how I try to look at things. And when I was younger, people used to always tell me like, don't be so analytical and logistical. Like things don't always have to just like make sense for it to go. But like to me, other people say that they would be worried, they'd be freaking out. But to me, it's like, well, I've done all these things, like
mm,
I have answers to these questions when they come up. And I'm not afraid to just not know what I'm doing.
mm,
Like I know how to run a gym. I know how to do all the CrossFit stuff. The things I didn't know how to do were like opening the business, right? And I was not afraid to appear that way. When I have to go in front of the township, like yesterday, I had to schedule my inspection. I had to go back to the township building. At this point, I've been in there probably like 8 or 9 times. I probably sent like 20 emails back and forth with the lady, like that she keeps saying, like she said to me yesterday, oh, you could just call and schedule. I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'd rather just show up and talk to you face to face because I don't know some of the stuff, and like you're going to teach me right now, and I'm going to learn it,
mm,
and I'm not afraid of that. Like when I'd be going in there like, oh, I want to take down a wall and change the lights. She's like, all right, well, you need the demo permit and the electrical permit. You have to do this and this. I had no idea about any of that stuff, but I wasn't afraid to go in there and learn. I didn't care about looking like someone that didn't know that. And a lot
mm,
of people are held back by that. And I can't tell you if I was 6 years ago before I had the experiences, but I had the experiences. I lived through them and I got this to where I'm not like, okay, I'm not scared for you to teach me something. And that circles back to relating to people so that when they come to me, I'm like, dude, when I first started CrossFit, I got a scar on my forehead from banging the barbell there because I didn't know what I was doing, but I made
mm,
it through. I just had a story to tell, and we all have dozens of those stories. So like some people try to like hide from them, but I think in CrossFit, we mostly will share them with other people. So yeah, man, like I do love learning, but I'm not scared to not know something.
mm. I love that. I think that's what's going to make you successful is that like you know that you don't know it and you're like I'm going to go learn it and I'm going to figure it out, right? I trust myself and what I've gathered over these years, right? On the things that I know I can crush, and the things I don't know, I'll figure it out along the way, just like I did with the other things. And
Right.
that's I think a huge separator. You talk about not being too analytical. I am definitely too analytical. I have an engineer background, and so
Right.
like my job was I was trained to like analyze everything that could possibly go wrong, and that definitely has held me back. So I love that you recognize that like I've had these experiences, I've gotten through them, I can take those, move forward in this new area that's not familiar with me.
Right. I mean, when I was young, man, like in the sixth, seventh grade like time period when you're like trying to figure out like what your talents are, what you like to do, I I wanted to be like an artist. I wanted to draw, like I always used to be one of the people who like to doodle, but like something to me, it was like I would be like looking up and trying to learn how to draw. Where most people that are like good at it, like it's just like an inherent thing, you get better at it by like repetition. But like I wasn't like that, like my analytical side would be like, all right, well, teach me how to draw, like teach me how to move my hands to draw. So I couldn't follow that. But before I was into fitness and everything, my passions were in writing. I want to be an author because like it's the same kind of creative side, but like you can learn how to do it. Like I had the creativity, I can just make stuff up, but then to actually make it into a story, you can learn how to do it. Like there was a flow to it, there was rules to it. So those were the same things that I wanted to do. And then when I got into CrossFit, like I was able to combine that. It was like writing to me, because like since CrossFit assigned metrics to things and defined fitness, like there was rules, a game plan to it, but then you could flow with your creativity to make things into something. But yeah, man, like the analytical part definitely did me in a lot when I was younger. Cause like I would like give responses even to just regular relationships with people, they sometimes they'll speak from emotion. It's like, well, this is what it is. And it's like, no, that's not what it is, stuff like that all the time. But I'm happy from all my experiences, man, that led me to today, because that's what makes you who you are.
For sure. And so I mean, all those different jobs, titles, and things that you've done, which one did you like the most? And which one do you think kind of prepared you the most for this upcoming, stage?
Oh man. I think, well, when I was first, what helped me start CrossFit, right? When I was in that point where I'm like, I'm going to work out to get in shape for CrossFit. I was working at Walmart as I was just overnight at the time, but then I got promoted to a daytime manager, and that allowed me to pay for CrossFit essentially, right? 'Cause, I mean, it is expensive. And that role, man, that like people that I met along with it, not just the job, that like gave me a lot of the experience and the ways like outlooks on things, I guess I could say. Before I was even in the role, I was a support manager, right? Like it was my job to help the daytime manager transition to the nighttime, accomplish tasks that one of them couldn't accomplish alone, right? And have a lot of communication skills between the two teams and stuff like that. And it taught me the importance of working with people, because now I'm working with customers. Before I was just overnight, so I didn't have to see anyone. Working with customers and seeing that like this person is just trying to go about their day, right? Like so that gave me those skills. I took, like I said, a lot of that outlook onto everything else. I mean, being an Apex, just a member there, it taught me what good coaching looks like. KOP, it taught me the professionalism side of the job. Brandywine taught me kind of what not to be, because that was my first like real job experience. So that was really important too, man. But even before I got into the fitness world, that job at Walmart showed me a lot of that outlook on things, from how to work with people in a customer facing job, what it meant to be a manager, a leader, like, and that was the first place that I ever like taught someone like how to do my job. You know what I'm saying? And I think that like that is the biggest thing that transitioned over into being a business owner, because like, dude, if I went and coached all the classes, if I put 18 classes on my week, 18 classes on my schedule a week, and I try to go coach all 18 of them, my business is going to end quickly. Right. So I'm going to have to train someone else to be a coach and work with the customers to keep the business running. Like you don't have to be a great CrossFit coach to be a good owner, but you have to be a good leader. So yeah, man, that job that taught me those skills, that was like, I hated it at the time. I absolutely hated it, but I appreciate it so much now, because I know that if I didn't work that job, I would have went in and I probably could have developed the coaching skills, but none of like those front facing skills that you need to work with people.
Yeah, some of those challenging positions, whether it's like you hate it for one reason or the other, like those are always where you grow the most. Like the workouts that I hate the most, guess what? They're the ones I suck at the most, and I get better the most because of them.
For sure. I mean, the ones where your brain starts going a whole bunch, like those are things you can learn something about yourself and get better. Yeah.
So what's the vision for the gym, right? You have a lot of different experiences at different gyms. What do you want your gym to be that separates it from, from everything else? And what's the long-term, vision with it?
Well, the number one thing is I want it to be the cleanest gym in the Montgomery County area. That's like, I think going back to like what makes a good gym and like how can someone see when they walk in, if the person cares about the gym and CrossFit, what it means, they're going to keep it clean. Like that'll show you. But what's the vision, man? I want it to be a place that empowers people to be like independent and take their health into their own hands, right? Because that's the biggest thing that CrossFit has done for me. Like I want to make people stronger, like physically, but I want them to develop resiliency through me, community driven approaches to going about things. I want it to be a home for people in the way that this is where I can come and always be accepted and accept other people. Like it's not just like it's not a home for me. It's a home because my friends have a home here, right? And I'm going to help create the other home for people. What I exactly want to do for the area, there's a whole of CrossFit gyms in that West Norriton area. What I exactly want to do for people is that I want to create fitness for like the family. I won't the first like 6 months to the first year are going to be about just developing the adult membership there. But then by the holidays of 2025, so this time next year, I'm really going to focus in on the teen athlete market and the at-risk youth market out there. And that's going to be, I have a 3-year lease going on. So that's going to be the bulk of the time that I'm at the location that I'm at right now. The West Norriton, Norristown, and like Oaks area. I know a couple of the high schools out there. I know a couple of the youth programs they have going on. I want to partner with them to have our young people like open their eyes. Because we go back to Barry, right? I quit football from going from 11th to 12th grade because CrossFit was too hard. Like I couldn't stick through it, not even physically, but just mentally, right? I couldn't get myself through the workouts. I had no vision. I had no direction. So I couldn't keep myself moving in those workouts. And because of that, I had time in my senior year to go do whatever, right? And I got into drugs and a whole bunch of other trouble. And I know that the no vision and no direction thing is what pushed me to be in those wrong spaces. So I know for a proven fact that if I can get kids in here working out and support them through the moments that they think they can't do, that'll empower them to when they're in these spaces where it's an opportunity for them to stay and get in trouble, they'll have the direction and the forethought to make the right decision. I didn't have that willpower because I'd given up all my vision and direction. But if I can empower our youth population to make decisions, then they'll go out and make the right ones. So that'll be a lot of what I focus on in that like year 2 or 3, after year 1, I should say. And then also the way that I got into CrossFit, besides just Barry, my mom, when I was young, man, she used to always be like, hey, like come walking with me just to have me do any kind of fitness. It's a lot of where my walking analogy comes from. And when I was young and on drugs and super overweight, I would be like, no, I'm not going to do that. What? Exercise? It's crazy. It sounds stupid. But she stayed with it and it changed her life. That was 15 years ago that we're talking about. And she still exercises. I mean, now that's when I was 17. I'm 33. So if I can do the reverse, I mean, like the CrossFit class will be good from everyone that's 17 to 50. But for our under 17 and our older 50 population, those are the ones that CrossFit gets a bad rap to. So not just the youth population, I also want to work with the older population too, our masters, and really key on that. And I think that can happen at the same time as I'm building the CrossFit membership up. But I want to like revitalize that in our area and have like a huge master's program. I'd like to start with the master's program, but be able to have them feel like they can take any of the classes. There's only a few of those in the area that like, I know Generation has a good Legends and Masters program over across at Westchester. They have a good one also, but I haven't really heard a lot about other people's Legends programs besides if they're going to the game. So I really want to focus in on those two different things. My plan is year 1 to develop my staff and my membership to have it be like a nice base level. But then after that, I'm going to let my staff keep growing the CrossFit membership, and I'm going to try to focus in on those other two things.
Yeah, I love that plan. And, obviously the membership in the beginning needs to come in and you need to keep the doors open, but the year 2 and on plan where it's like, hey, I'm going to get the most impact that I can. One that's relatable to me, which is going to, it's going to like really exude what your goal is and what your vision is, because you've lived that. And so you can help people and they'll see your enthusiasm for it. And I think that's really big, because I think I agree, both spectrums, the
Populations.
younger and the older, they're going to be the most impacted. If you can get them in when they're younger, that's going to build that foundation. That's going to carry them forever. I know I'm super fortunate in that I kind of always stayed active throughout everything. Because there, you hear the freshman 15 and all that stuff, because you stop working out and you start drinking a ton, right? If you can just keep that going through college, when you come out on the other side and you got a job and eventually a family and all that stuff, like your identity will be, I'm going to work out. So if you can provide some direction and some vision, I think that's going to make a huge impact, and that's going to be what sets you up to be successful in the long run.
Right. I mean, you've been around CrossFit as long as me. Like, you think about kids that you've seen doing CrossFit for a 4-year time period, right? And like, either if they're graduated high school this year or they're in college now or whatever, like, you think about those kids, the ones that that have done that. Like, you'd be like, damn, these kids is crushing it. Like, they're all doing like amazing things. The top example, Reese from over at CrossFit ICA, Iron Cross, like, she won the games, like, graduated high school, went to college, is working out. Like, dude, none of us had that direction. If it wasn't for an organized sport, we wouldn't be like able to be that on top of things. And we're talking about a crop of 16, 17, 8-year-old up to like 24-year-olds that like have their lives together enough to be able to, oh, these are all my classes I'm going to schedule. This is the time that I'm going to go to the gym. This is when I'm going to cook for dinner and breakfast at 17 and 18. If you can create responsible people like that by just working out with them, because fitness is just a conduit about what we're talking about now at this point in the impact part of it. If you could just use that exercise conduit to empower these people to be able to make decisions like this at such an early age, oh man, like, you got a superpower, so that's what I want to try to focus in on, because I've seen it, like I just talked about with those kids, that you get them for 2-3 years and see what they go do after that. Oh, it's crazy, and I want to be a part of that for people.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that you will. I mean, based on, I can already see and hear your passion, so I can see that coming through. And building up your staff, you being a leader that you are, and learning how can I be the best and most effective leader is going to allow you to do that. Like you said, you could go in, you could coach 18 classes a week, all the classes, but like that's not going to. That's something, like, you love coaching, but that's not something you want to do, because you have a grander vision for the long term, and you need to be able to sacrifice some of the coaching that you love doing to be able to achieve that larger vision.
Yeah, I mean, because like, dude, I mean, it sounds like lame, right, when you say something like it, but I want to make a better me. I want to make me sooner. Like, I have these things that I want to go impact for the world at 33. And I mean, I'm still young and youthful, but like, I only got so much energy. If I could go make a 17-year-old that skips the drug phase, it goes right to the, like, oh, I want to be able to provide for my family. I want to be able to be responsible in this way. I want to be able to do this till I'm 100. So I'm going to eat like it, like all those things. Then like, boom, check mark. And like, that's less work that I got to go do, because they're going to be out going and doing it now, So that's like where my head at. And it's micro, macro, like I said, beginning, it's going to be about the membership and like providing the best experience for them, because that's what's going to allow me to go do all the other things, But I'm excited, man, to have my own space, to be able to do that, to run events like the Super Total, because like, dude, it's so much fun, because like everyone in there is just like, I feel like I've run multiple CrossFit competitions along with the Super Total, but I feel like that's the one where you are trying to push yourself really hard, but you're also cheering for your competitors and everyone else in there. Like, I mean, when you were there, that building was electric. Like, people lift, they stay around after the heat, they cheer for the next person. It's like, so it's so much fun doing stuff like that,
Yeah, agreed. I mean, running competitions is always fun, and that's CrossFit in general too is the same way, where you're cheering on everybody else. Like, yeah, you're there to improve yourself. Like, who cares if the person next to you beats you? Like, that's not the point. Like, we're here,
right.
We're here to push ourselves, and then root for everybody else. Everybody is friends. Every event that I've run, every event that I've been to, it's like I always meet new and different people, and it's just because we're all there, kind of doing the same thing. We just want to improve ourselves mentally and physically by using fitness, like you said, as a conduit.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. It's always great to just meet other people like that too. Like, that's what I love, man. Lou Williams from formerly from Apex, he told me that our experiences are meant to be shared. Like, that's why we collect them. And like, that has had a profound like effect on my life. Like, oh man, like I always thought just like, oh, you utilize your own experiences. And then it's like he said that to me and I'm like, oh wow, like I could do so much more, you know. So
Mhm.
I love moments like that and moments like this too, you know.
For sure. It's funny how like one little thing that somebody said, even if they didn't mean to like create this epiphany, the one little thing that they say, you're just like, oh wait, like this created this whole new perspective on,
Right.
on everything that I have going on and will change what I do moving forward.
Right. And so I told Lou that too. And he's like, "Oh, dude, I had no idea." You know, he's like just saying like an Instagram or Facebook quote to me or something like that. But you know, it's still meaningful, you know, because he said it maybe not to have this grand effect, but
Mhm.
to like we talked about earlier with the like you touching base with a member, even if you didn't coach them that day, like that's what he was doing, you know. So it's important, you know.
You don't realize the impact that you have on somebody, right? You might say a simple thing that really is nonchalant. It's just like whether it's a cue or a little thing, like you don't know what somebody's going through. So you might say something that doesn't really mean anything to you or not much. It's just kind of like, hey, I wanted to have this interaction. But I've had times where somebody's come back like, you remember that thing you said to me a month ago? It's like I say a lot
No,
of things to a lot of
no.
people, but they're like that really changed what it. And I was like, okay, I'm like, hey, I'm glad to hear it. Like I appreciate when somebody comes back and gives me feedback like that. But like you just don't know when you say or what you say, what kind of impact that's going to have to somebody.
Wait, you know what I learned to do when that happens too? You gotta write it down. Like, "Oh, yeah, that was good. Let me write
Yeah,
that down,"
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? That's what I've learned to do in those situations, man. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
awesome. That's a good thing. I'll remember that for next time.
You know what I'm saying? Like, "Oh, wow, I said that. That's smart.
I'm
I'm gonna
so
write that
smart.
one down." You know? That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, no, I appreciate you coming on. What's the best way? So you have your podcast. You're opening the gym. Like, if people are in the Montgomery County area, that's where I'm located too. So if people are looking for a new CrossFit gym or a new podcast to listen to, what's the best way to get in touch with you and check out the podcast?
So the gym, CrossFit Hungry Dog Athletics. If you go on Google, if you search Hungry Dog Barbell, it's going to populate that location because that SEO has been around for longer on the CrossFit Hungry Dog Athletics. So Google Hungry Dog Barbell. It'll take you to my website, to the Instagram for the Barbell Club. And the same information is going to apply from there to the CrossFit Hungry Dog Athletics, the CrossFit affiliate. But yeah, CrossFit Hungry Dog Athletics on Instagram. My Instagram handle is TTheKid91. I talk to people on both of those a whole bunch. I try to usually do more gym and business stuff on the Hungry Dog page and be on my account more. I'm sure that'll change a little bit more as the gym actually opens. But if you want to reach out to me directly, I'd say probably TTheKid91. Unless you want to join the gym, then go over to the gym stuff. Google that up there. The podcast Hungry Dog Barbell, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube also. I haven't done a video one in a long time there. I broke my camera at an event, so but the audio ones are all out there still going on. Super Total announcement will be dropping soon, probably January 3rd. That's like the first regular day of the new year. I
Mm.
skip over the second, let people sleep that day too. Um, and our grand opening and some other fun pop-up stuff for the gym, the CrossFit affiliate, and the weightlifting team will be dropping soon, man. Like I said, inspections this week, and that's just going to go pretty easy. I've had dude, advice right here for anyone that's trying to open a gym or really do anything. Like, don't be afraid to pester the people. Along with not being afraid to not know stuff, I am not afraid to show up, email, call the person that's providing whatever service that I need.
Mhm.
I don't want to sit on. I've heard horror stories from other gym owners about sitting on like construction, demo, inspection for 8 months, a year, and stuff. I was not going to do that. I don't have the money to do that. So boom, I showed up. I did what I had to do. But yeah, the grand opening and stuff, all those announcements will be dropping soon. Be on the lookout for that. Probably right around this time that episode's coming out. So it should be an exciting time, Zach, thanks for
Sweet.
having me on, man. It's been a great convo.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, or thanks for coming on. And yeah, I'll gather all of those links and stuff like that. They'll be in the show description. That way, anybody can find it. Easy. And don't have to remember write anything down. So we'll include it all in there. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. And have a great holiday. And everybody, thanks for listening.
Heck yeah, dude. It's been a great convo.